Opening our planet is filled with mysteries that challenge the imagination. Some places are so surreal, they make us question if they truly exist on Earth. They were shaped by millions of years of time pressure and erosion. Sometimes by human hands hidden away for centuries. These wonders lie on remote islands, in isolated valleys, and across geological realms few have ever reached. Today, our journey explores the unbelievable wonders of this planet. Opening our planet is filled with mysteries that challenge the imagination. Some At more than 12,000 feet above sea level, this vast salt flat stretches nearly 4,000 square miles across the Bolivian Altiplano. During the rainy season, a thin layer of water covers the surface, turning the entire landscape into a perfect mirror of the sky. Here, the boundary between Earth and clouds almost disappears. The surface is so flat and precise that satellites use it to calibrate their altimeters. Beneath the salt crust lies a massive brine reservoir, rich in lithium, one of the largest deposits on Earth. Geology, light, and weather combine to create an illusion unlike anywhere else. Standing here, all sound fades away. Only the wind, the light, and the quiet feeling of being small before nature remain. The ocean seems to collapse into a deep blue abyss. From above, shifting shades of turquoise and navy form the image of a massive waterfall plunging into the sea. But it is not a waterfall. It is an illusion created by strong ocean currents, pulling sand and silt off the island's edge. From the air, the movement of sediment tricks the eye into seeing depth where there is none. Mauritius is one of the few places on Earth where underwater topography creates such a perfect deception. Even when you know it is not real, it still feels impossible to believe. This place reminds us how easily light and perspective can bend our sense of reality. In the middle of the Sahara Desert in western Mauritania lies one of Earth's strangest landmarks, the Richat structure, also known as the Eye of the Sahara, or the Blue Eye of Africa. From space, its concentric rings are so clear that astronauts use them as a visual marker while orbiting above Africa. The formation spans about 30 miles across, near the small town of Wadain. It is made of ancient sedimentary rock formed more than 500 million years ago. Over time, wind and erosion carved the layers into circular ridges, outer rings of hard rock and inner rings of softer quartzite. At its center lies a plain of debris nearly 2 miles wide. Scientists have debated its origin for decades. Some believe it was created by volcanic activity. Others think it resulted from a meteor impact. A few even connect it to the legend of Atlantis. Whatever the truth, the Eye of the Sahara remains a silent record of how time and erosion can shape beauty on a planetary scale. The surface of this lake glows with shades of pink that seem almost unreal. The color changes through the year from pale rose in the rainy season to deep magenta under the intense, dry season sun. Its hue comes from microscopic algae called Dunaliella salina. These organisms thrive in extremely salty water, producing red pigment to absorb sunlight. The lake's salinity is nearly 10 times that of the ocean, creating an environment where little else can survive. Along the shore, local workers harvest salt by hand, coating their skin with shea butter to protect it from irritation. This centuries-old craft keeps the bond between people and the land alive. In a place where almost nothing can live, color itself becomes a symbol of endurance. At dawn, light reveals a clay basin between towering red dunes. Scattered across the white ground stand the dark remains of trees that died nearly 900 years ago. When the river that once nourished this valley changed course, life vanished. The extreme dryness of the Namib Desert preserved the wood, turning each trunk into a shadow, frozen in time. The contrast here is stunning orange dunes glowing against white earth and a deep blue sky. For photographers, this is one of the most surreal scenes on the planet. Here, silence has weight. United States, steam drifts through the mountain air. Below it, a vast circle of color glows in the heart of Yellowstone. The Grand Prismatic Spring, the largest hot spring in America, unfolds like a living rainbow. Its colors painted by microscopic life that thrives in boiling water. At its center, the deep blue reaches 160 degrees Fahrenheit. Around it, bands of green, yellow, and red trace the edge of life itself. Each hue marks a species of bacteria surviving at the limit of what is possible. But Yellowstone is more than beauty. Beneath this calm landscape lies one of the largest supervolcanoes on Earth. Its last eruption reshaped continents and skies. Even today, the ground rises and falls by inches each year, as if the Earth were breathing in its sleep. It is strange to think that what feels peaceful could one day change the planet again. And yet, this same land became the first national park in the world created in 1872 to protect not power, but life. Once the sound of wolves echoed across North America and Europe, then fear silenced them. By the early 1900s, most populations were hunted to extinction. But nature has a long memory. In 1995, gray wolves were brought back to Yellowstone after more than 70 years of absence. What followed was one of the most extraordinary ecological recoveries ever recorded. With the wolves' return, elk herds began to move again. Vegetation grew back along the rivers. Beavers, birds, and fish returned. Even the shape of the rivers changed. A single predator had rebalanced an entire ecosystem. In the western ranges of Colorado, new packs are being released once again. The program began in December 2023 aiming to restore a natural balance long lost. Even as debates continue among ranchers and hunters who share the land. Farther east, scientists are fighting to bring back the red wolf, once native to the southeastern United States. Their work in North Carolina is giving this critically endangered species a second chance at survival. Researchers are exploring the use of genetic editing and cloning to revive extinct wolf lineages, hoping to understand how lost species once shaped the planet's ecosystems. High in the Peruvian Andes, the Earth unfolds in waves of color. Reds, yellows, greens, and blues sweep across the ridges like brushstrokes from another world. This is Rainbow Mountain, known locally as Vinicunca. Its beauty comes from layers of mineral deposits exposed by the slow retreat of ancient glaciers. Iron paints the slopes red and ochre. Copper leaves traces of green and turquoise. Sulfur glows yellow beneath the sun. At more than 16,000 feet above sea level, the air is thin and the silence feels heavy. Only wind and footsteps break the stillness as travelers make their way up the winding path. Where most rivers run blue, this one carries every color of fire and light. Its surface glows red, yellow, green, blue, and black, shifting like liquid glass under the sun. Locals call it Caño Cristalis, the river of 5 colors. For most of the year, it looks ordinary. But when the rainy season begins, a rare aquatic plant called Macarenia clavigera bursts to life beneath the water. It paints the riverbed in vivid red, mingling with the gold of the sand and the green of the moss. There are no minerals or strange lights here, only sunlight, pure water, and a living organism turning chemistry into art. Travelers come from across the world to see it. But nothing quite prepares you for the moment when you stand beside it and realize that this rainbow is made of life itself. In northern Tanzania lies Lake Natron. A shallow body of water, the color of rust and blood. Its surface shimmers in shades of red and pink, tinted by salt-loving microorganisms that thrive in water too caustic for most life. The lake's temperature can reach over 120 degrees Fahrenheit. Its alkaline waters, rich in soda and minerals, can burn skin and eyes. And yet it is not lifeless. Flamingos nest along its edges, feeding on the very algae that give the water its color. But when birds or insects stray too far and fall in the lake, preserves them in mineral coats, turning fragile bodies into stone. Dishti. For thousands of years, people followed warm streams down this hillside, believing the waters could heal, renew, and even grant youth. The Greeks built the city of Hierapolis here, where poets, merchants, and kings came to bathe in the same pools that still flow today. Empires fell, earthquakes changed the land, but the terraces kept forming one fragile rim at a time, layered by the same mineral springs that drew the ancients. Pamukkale is not just a place of beauty, it is a living record of faith in the patience of nature and the human need to be remade by water. Across Egypt's western desert lies a landscape that looks dusted with snow. White sands rise in drifts and ridges over an orange base, forming towers, domes, and shapes sculpted by ancient wind and water. The white comes from minerals of calcium, quartz, and limestone, once part of the seabed that covered this region millions of years ago. Over time, erosion carved the soft rock into formations that glow like frost under the sun. Among them stands Crystal Mountain, a natural arch made entirely of quartz. Its surface shimmers like glass, a quiet reminder that even in the driest desert, the earth still knows how to shine. But Egypt's brilliance does not end with stone. Beneath this same sky, civilizations once tried to master eternity. The pharaohs did not build only for power, but for permanence. Tutankhamun, the boy king, died before reaching 20, yet his tomb, discovered more than 3,000 years later, was almost untouched gold, ivory, and amulets still guarding his body. Scientists now know that his preservation was an act of chemistry and faith combined resin, salt, and linen, working together to hold a flesh against decay. It was both science and prayer performed by hands that believed they were preparing a soul for another world. The Egyptians did not see death as an end. To them, it was a journey. They imagined the soul sailing across the night sky, guided by gods with animal heads, Ra the sun, God reborn each morning, Osiris, the ruler of the underworld, and Anubis, who weighed the heart of the dead against a feather. If the heart was heavy with sin, it was devoured. If it was light, the spirit continued its voyage toward the eternal fields. What's remarkable is that this ancient obsession with immortality created some of the most enduring monuments on Earth. The pyramids may seem like relics, but they are also equations, precise alignments of stone, shadow, and starlight. Their builders measured eternity with math, and perhaps that is Egypt's greatest paradox. A civilization that feared death built more lasting things than any that came after it. The stone forest lies deep within the Yunnan Plateau. At first glance, the landscape feels like a city made of stone. Tall spires rise from the ground, narrow corridors cut through the rock, and every surface carries, recognized by UNESCO as a World Natural Heritage Site in 2007 and as a Global Geopark in 2004. Each ridge and pillar records a different chapter in the history of this land. Geologists often call it the first wonder under heaven, a conclusion based on decades of study, not just a poetic phrase. The story of the stone forest begins nearly 270 million years ago, when this land rested beneath a shallow sea. Over time, layers of limestone settled hardened and were later lifted by tectonic forces into the open air. Rain, wind, and the slow dissolving of stone shaped these towers and channels, carving the landscape drop by drop, season by season. The northern coast of Ireland hides a secret that looks too perfect to be natural. "40,000 columns of basalt rise from the Atlantic, their edges locked together, like a path built for giants." Legend says it was crafted by the mythical Finn McCool to cross the sea and fight his rival in Scotland. Science tells another story. When volcanic lava met cold ocean water, it cooled so quickly that the rock cracked into hexagons with geometric precision. Today, waves crash and retreat, polishing each column smoother than any sculptor could. Madagascar. Once this was a seabed. Rain and acid slowly dissolved the stone-carving narrow canyons where sunlight rarely reaches the ground. Seen from above, it looks like a frozen forest of knives, yet life found a way to move through it. Lemurs, the island's most iconic primates, leap across the razor peaks with astonishing grace. Their padded hands and long tails help them balance on spires no wider than a finger. Each leap is a calculation between life and injury. Some species, like the Deccan sifaka, have adapted almost entirely to this stone labyrinth. They feed on leaves that grow in cracks, drink from rainwater pooled in the rock, and sleep in the safety of the upper ledges, where no predator can follow. For them, survival is not about escaping danger. It's about learning to dance with it. Water doesn't just erode stone, it decorates it. Waves of Lake General Carrera have been sculpting marble walls for nearly 6,000 years. Creating tunnels streaked with turquoise and silver. The color is not paint, but reflection. a mirror of the sky filtered through glacial water so pure it bends light itself. When boats drift inside, the sound of water against stone echoes like distant music. These formations are still changing, grain by grain. Each ripple, each reflection is proof that art can happen without an artist. Along the coast of New Zealand's South Island, dozens of stone spheres rest quietly on the sand. They look man-made, but each one grew naturally beneath the seabed over millions of years. Minerals gathered around a single point, perhaps a shell, a leaf, or a bone layer by layer, until the rock sealed it inside. Erosion then revealed them smooth and round, scattered like giant pearls washed ashore. People come here at dawn to watch the tide retreat and light fill the hollows between them. In northern Arizona, storms turn desert into sculpture. When flash floods tore through the sandstone, the water carved sinuous corridors that twist and fold like flowing silk. Each curve holds the memory of a storm, written in layers of red and gold. Light drops from above in narrow beams, drifting with the dust, painting the canyon in motion. Photographers wait hours for that single instant when the light strikes perfectly. What they capture lasts a second, but it took millions of years to prepare the stage. In the heart of northern Greece, sandstone pillars rise like the fingers of the earth. Reaching for the sky. For centuries they stood untouched until a small brotherhood of monks looked up and saw a sanctuary waiting to be built. They came here in the 14th century, fleeing the wars and chaos that swept across the plains. Without roads or stairs, they climbed the cliffs by hand and rope. Stone by stone, basket by basket, they built monasteries on summits where only clouds could rest. The name Meteora means suspended in air, and it fits. Even now, 6 of the original 24 monasteries remain active, floating between heaven and earth. Their bells echo through the valley, a rhythm of devotion that has never stopped. Visitors walk where monks once hauled supplies by pulley, feeling the same wind that shaped this faith in stone. Inside, frescoes glow in the dim light, and the scent of wax and incense lingers on the air. Each wall tells a story of endurance, not luxury. At sunset, the cliffs turn gold, and the monasteries seem to drift. For a moment, it is easy to believe that faith alone can hold a mountain in the sky. Half a continent away, in the mountains of China, another vision of devotion took shape. Clinging to the sheer face of Mount Heng, the Hanging Temple defies gravity with quiet grace. Built more than 1,500 years ago, it rests on wooden beams wedged into the cliff. A structure that seems to float between heaven and earth. Inside, statues of Buddha Laozi and Confucius share the same space. Three great teachings under one roof, balanced on air and faith. For centuries, this temple has withstood earthquakes and storms, its foundations trembling yet unbroken. Rising from the jungle, a single block of stone stands nearly 600 feet high. From a distance, it looks like a natural wonder. Up close, you see the work of a man who wanted to become a god. This is Surreal, the Lion Rock Fortress. 1,500 years ago, King Kashyapa built his palace on this summit after seizing the throne from his father. Haunted by guilt and fear, he turned the rock into a fortress of isolation, surrounding himself with walls, moats, and mirror-like frescoes of celestial maidens. What remains is both beautiful and unsettling, a monument to paranoia carved into perfection. The king who built it was eventually defeated, but his citadel still watches over the forest, silent as a confession no one ever heard. Where the Drina River winds through western Serbia, a small wooden house stands alone on a rock in the current. It began as a place of play built by a group of friends who wanted somewhere to rest after swimming. They brought the first boards by boat, nailed them together, and never expected it to last. But the house refused to disappear. Storms tore it down again and again. Each time someone rebuilt it. For 50 years, it has stood against the river's rage, fragile, absurd, and unshakable. In a world obsessed with power, this tiny house reminds us that endurance can be quiet. High in the cliffs of northern Italy, a church clings to stone like a prayer that refused to fall. Built into a sheer wall of Monte Baldo, the sanctuary of Madonna della Corona seems to hang in the air. Suspended between faith and gravity. Pilgrims have been climbing here since the 16th century, following a narrow path carved into the mountain. Inside, the air is cool and still. Candles flicker against rock that has held the same silence for centuries. It is a place for those who come not to ask for miracles, but simply to remember that belief can anchor us even when the ground gives way. 23. In the Bavarian Alps, fantasy became stone. Neuschwanstein Castle rises above the forest like a vision from a dream. Turrets, towers, and clouds reflected in its white walls. It was never built for war or power. King Ludwig II designed it as a private retreat inspired by the operas of Wagner and the legends of medieval knights. He spent his fortune building a castle meant not to protect his kingdom, but to preserve his imagination. Ludwig died before it was finished. The castle opened to the public just weeks later. What he built in solitude became one of the most visited places on Earth. In southern Thailand, there is a village that floats. Koh Phangan rests entirely on wooden stilts, anchored in shallow turquoise water and ringed by limestone cliffs. It was founded over 200 years ago by Muslim fishermen who were not allowed to own land. So they built their home on the sea instead. Schools, mosques, markets, even a floating soccer field, all held up by tide and determination. When storms come, the whole village sways, but never breaks. Koh Phangan is not a place that conquers nature. it learns to move with it. In the Swiss Alps, engineering and landscape meet in perfect balance. The Landwasser Viaduct curves out of a mountainside and vanishes into a tunnel carved through solid rock. Trains glide across its 6 stone arches as if suspended in mid-air. Built in the early 20th century, the bridge was shaped without modern machines, a feat of precision guided by human hands and simple geometry. Even today, it feels more like a part of the valley than a structure imposed upon it. In the desert of Turkmenistan, a circle of fire burns without pause. Locals call it the door to hell, a pit that has glowed for more than 50 years. It began as an accident. In the early 1970s, a team of Soviet geologists struck a pocket of natural gas. The ground collapsed, forming a crater nearly 200 feet wide. To prevent the spread of toxic fumes, they set it alight, expecting it to burn out within days. But the fire never stopped. Wind feeds the flames, and the earth keeps exhaling fuel from below. At night, the desert glows red, like the breath of a sleeping giant. We watch the fire and realize this is what happens when curiosity outruns control. From the fire below, we lift our eyes to one of the driest places on Earth. Here in northern Chile, the Atacama Desert stretches for hundreds of miles without rain. Some valleys have not seen a single drop of water in centuries. It is a place where nothing grows, yet everything becomes clear. The air is so thin, the sky so pure, that starlight falls untouched by distortion. Astronomers call this the best window to the universe, a natural observatory carved by silence. At night, we see more stars than we can name. Light that left its source before humans ever walked the Earth now reaches our eyes. In this emptiness, we sense connection between dust time and life. As we drift in silence, the ceiling begins to glow. Thousands of glowworms hang from the stone, each no larger than a grain of rice. Together, they form constellations of living light, a galaxy built on hunger and instinct. They shine to lure insects, yet in doing so, they create something far greater than survival beauty. The deeper we go, the quieter it becomes. Only the sound of water remains echoing, like the pulse of the earth. For a moment, it feels as though we've fallen through the planet and come out beneath another sky. We've seen the fire of man, the stars of the universe. And now, the smallest lights of life. And somehow, this is where the wonder feels closest. We step into a forest where time moves slower than thought. Giants rise around us, their trunks wide as houses their crowns, hidden in mist. They have stood here for thousands of years, and some began growing before the fall of Rome. This is Sequoia National Park. Established in September 1990, the second national park in the United States, and the first created to protect a living organism. More than 8,000 sequoias grow in the giant forest, including the General Sherman tree, the largest living tree on Earth. What makes them endure is not their height, but their bond. Their roots reach only a few feet deep, spreading wide and intertwining with one another. Together, they form a network that keeps them standing through windfire and snow. It's strange to think that the tallest trees survive not by standing alone, but by holding on to each other. Israel, Jordan. The air here feels heavier, the light sharper. Before us lies the lowest point on the surface of the Earth, more than 1,400 feet below sea level. Its water is almost 10 times saltier than the ocean, so dense that nothing can sink and almost nothing can live. For centuries, travelers came here seeking healing, believing that the minerals could restore what time had taken. But the truth is more fragile. The Dead Sea is shrinking. Each year, the shoreline retreats as rivers are diverted and heat pulls the water skyward. In less than 50 years, it has lost a third of its surface. Still, it glows like liquid glass under the sun. Salt crystals bloom along its edges, forming patterns that shift with every wave. It is dying, yet endlessly remaking itself. We lean back, and the water holds us without effort. There is no need to swim, no need to fight. Here, gravity feels optional. So tell me, if the sea that cannot support life can still carry us so gently, what does that say about the world that made it? Maybe this is not an ending after all. Maybe this is the Earth learning how to rest. And we have crossed deserts that glow like mirrors, climbed temples that cling to cliffs, and drifted through rivers painted by life itself. We have seen mountains of fire, forests of stone, and oceans that never sleep. Everywhere we went, one truth remained. The earth is not still. It moves, breathes, remembers. The colors, the storms, the silence. They are not there to be understood, only to be witnessed. Because every wonder we found was never just about the planet. It was about us, the way we see, the way we build, the way we hope to last a little longer than the wind. So when the journey ends, don't look for closure. Listen, the world is still speaking. And somewhere, another miracle is already beginning.